Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Not ruminators, but welcome back to another session on my declassified Caribbean News and Network channel. Thank you so much for joining this afternoon's program. And today we are going to look at a very interesting topic, which is Jamaica. Wholeness. We need to look at what is happening to him and Jamaica, dark days for Andrew Holness. Wheatley, TCNs, and growing call for accountability. Is Andrew Holness facing one of the most difficult political moments of his leadership? In this video, we examine the growing controversies surrounding the Jamaica Labour Party administration, including questions over the handling of the Wheatley affair, public concerns about traffic citation notices. That's not traffic, it is the third country's nationals, and increasing calls for accountability from citizens, activists, and opposition voices. Are these isolated issues, or do they point to deeper frustrations among Jamaicans? Could these controversies affect public confidence in the government as the country moves closer to the next general election? Now, join the discussion as we break down the facts, analyze the political implications, and explore what these developments could mean for Jamaica's future. Tell us your thoughts in the comment section below. And I would like you to definitely comment on that section so that you can let me know what you are thinking, because this is, of course, the thinking channel. Now, good evening again, good afternoon, and welcome back to the channel. This afternoon, we ask a difficult question. Are these dark days for Andrew Holness and the Jamaica Labour Party and for Jamaica as a whole? And, many times we're seeing here where the private sector organization of Jamaica and the church, members of the church are calling for the resignation of Andrew Wheatley. Now, the Andrew Wheatley controversy exposes what many Jamaicans see as a deep hypocrisy within the country's political and social establishment. For years, sections of the political class, business elite, media commentators, and even influential church leaders remained largely silent when Andrew Wheatley was brought back into public life by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Despite the lingering shadow of the Petrojam controversy and the questions that followed his resignation, there was no sustained national outcry from many of the same voices now demanding accountability. The obvious question is, if Wheatley was considered unfit for public office, why was there so little resistance when he was quietly rehabilitated and returned to positions of influence? Now, he's now situated in the office of the Prime Minister. This is what frustrates many Jamaicans. Accountability in Jamaica often appears selective. The outrage comes from when controversial appointments are made, and often from the opposition who desires to go into office to do the same thing, but only after political pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Principles that should be applied consistently are instead applied when convenient. And that is what the opposition will do. They will apply pressure, pretend to be superior in terms of their moral rectitude, yet if they should get into office tomorrow, then they operate in the same manner. The hypocrisy extends beyond party politics. Jamaica's ruling establishment frequently lectures ordinary citizens about ethics, responsibility, and integrity while tolerating a political culture that repeatedly recycles the same individuals, the same networks, and the same patterns of governance. The standards imposed on the public are often very different from those applied to the politically connected. Even some church leaders who rightly speak about morality and righteousness in public life have often appeared more willing to challenge corruption after it becomes a public scandal than when political leaders are actively restoring controversial figures to positions of power. Moral leadership requires consistency, not convenience. The Wheatley affair therefore raises a larger question. Is Jamaica serious about accountability, or is accountability merely a weapon deployed when political circumstances demand it? If the nation's elites genuinely believed that public trust and integrity were paramount, the objections would have begun when Wheatley was reintroduced into public office, not only after fresh allegations emerged and public scrutiny intensified, because that is what they like. They like drama. So again, we will be distracted, we'll be talking, we'll be arguing among ourselves, and then we do not see the real agenda that they're trying to impose on the populace. For many Jamaicans, that is the real scandal, not simply the actions of one politician, but a political system in which the gatekeepers repeatedly tolerate unquestionable decisions until doing so becomes politically costly. That is why public trust continues to erode. People are increasingly concluding that there is one standard for ordinary Jamaicans and another for those who occupy the corridors of power. But I must here interject to suggest here that Jamaica deserves it. And I'm sorry to say that because we are the ones who continue to adore them instead of holding them to account. Election cycle after election cycle, and we go on buses and we root for them and we quarrel and we fight over them, sometimes engaging in physical combat over these ordinary people. And we've got to understand that they should be public servants. They should not be celebrities. But we have turned them into celebrities, and they are treating us as slaves, as we deserve. Very important that you understand that. So are dark days ahead for Andrew Holness and the Jamaica Labour Party. From the return of Andrew Wheatley to public office, to allegations surrounding undeclared wealth, to growing concerns about accountability and governance, many Jamaicans are beginning to wonder whether the country is heading in the right direction. But this discussion is bigger than Andrew Holness. It is bigger than Andrew Wheatley. It is bigger than the JLP. Because if we're honest, the problem did not start with the JLP, and it certainly will not end with the JLP. This afternoon, we're going to discuss corruption, accountability, political culture, and the deeper question that many people don't want to confront. Do leaders simply reflect the moral condition of the society that elects them? I repeat that question. Do leaders simply reflect the moral condition of the society that elects them? Before we begin, consider a few biblical principles. Proverbs 29 verse 2 says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." But there's another scripture many people overlook. Hosea 8 verse 4 says, and I quote, "They have set up kings," and kings here represents prime ministers and presidents, "but not by me. They have made princes, and I knew it not," unquote. And perhaps most importantly, Hosea 4 verse 9 states, and I quote, "And there shall be like people, like priests," unquote. In modern language, like leaders, like followers, like followers, like leaders. The Bible repeatedly suggests that rulers often emerge from the moral character of the population itself. A corrupt society rarely produces clean government. A dishonest people rarely elect honest leaders. Politicians do not fall from the sky. They come from our communities, our churches, our schools, our families, and our culture. If corruption is tolerated at every level of society, eventually it appears at the highest levels of government. So let's talk about Andrew Wheatley. Andrew Wheatley served as Minister of Science, Energy and Technology in the first administration of Andrew Holness. In 2018, the Petrojam controversy became one of the biggest political scandals faced by the Holness administration. Questions were raised regarding governance practices, hiring decisions, procurement matters, and management at the state-owned oil refinery. The issue generated widespread public criticism. The pressure eventually led to Wheatley's resignation as minister. For many Jamaicans, the resignation appeared to mark the end of his political career. Yet years later, Andrew Wheatley returned to public office under the Holness administration. Many critics viewed this as a political rehabilitation. Supporters argued that individuals deserve second chances, and some people suggest also that there was no evidence, concrete evidence to suggest that he was guilty as charged during that scandal of 2018, the Petrojam controversy. Now, fast forward to today, the Integrity Commission has reportedly raised concerns regarding alleged unexplained or undeclared wealth connected to Andrew Wheatley. And they have done so also for Dr. Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. But their attention now is focused on Andrew Wheatley. Maybe they're beginning there, and eventually they'll try to dethrone Andrew Holness. Let's watch and let us see what the future holds for that country. These are allegations and findings that continue to be debated in the public sphere. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has publicly expressed disagreement with aspects of the Commission's conclusions. This has created another controversy because many Jamaicans are asking, if independent oversight institutions raise concerns, should those concerns be taken more seriously, or are they even independent committees? Or are these institutions themselves subject to error and overreach and also corruption? Should, as you know, as Kabu said, and Kabu is on Area FM, she suggested that the Integrity Commission needs an Integrity Commission to rule over it. Because the Integrity Commission of Jamaica, they are also politically charged and corrupt. These are legitimate questions in a so-called democracy. The bigger problem, but here's where I think many Jamaicans miss the bigger picture. The issue is not merely Andrew Wheatley. The issue is not merely Andrew Holness. The issue is the political culture itself. Every election cycle, Jamaicans are told that one party is the solution to the other. Every selection cycle, we hear that salvation is just one vote away. Then years pass, the faces change, the problems remain, the scandals remain, and they also worsen. The debt remains, the corruption allegations remain, the lack of accountability remains. Now, some viewers may think this is an argument for the PNP. It is not. The PNP has its own history of controversies, failures, scandals, and broken promises. Many Jamaicans have lived under both administrations. Many would argue that both parties have failed to transform the economic reality facing ordinary people. The result is widespread cynicism. People increasingly believe that politics has become a game where ordinary citizens lose regardless of which side wins. So ordinary people will always lose. Consider Air Jamaica. For decades, taxpayers poured resources into the national airline. Successive governments struggled with its management and financial viability, but they were using it like a sports ball. Eventually, the airline ceased operating as Jamaica's national carrier. Whether one blames the PNP, the JLP, or both, many Jamaicans view Air Jamaica as a symbol of what happens when politics, patronage, and poor management intersect. A nation loses control of a strategic asset. Look at NHT. Now, let's discuss another issue-generating debate, the National Housing Trust. Supporters of the government's policies argue that foreign investment helps create jobs and stimulate economic growth. Critics argue that too many national assets and opportunities are being directed toward wealthy investors while ordinary Jamaicans struggle to afford housing. Many Jamaicans are asking, why are thousands struggling to own homes while large development projects continue receiving support? Why are so many young people locked out of the housing market? And what exactly should the role of the NHT be? These are important questions that deserve public discussion, but we're not having these things. We more are interested in the gossips, in the back and forth in Parliament, and they are puerile discussions that we're seeing in Jamaica's Parliament. Puerile discussions, right? Now, the Gleaner is reporting that pressure is mounting on the Holness administration to have the resignation of Andrew Wheatley. The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, and the Jamaica umbrella groups of churches have both weighed in on the Integrity Commission's recommendations concerning Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for science, technology, and special projects, Dr. Andrew Wheatley. The two groups have, however, come away with differing positions on whether Wheatley should step aside until the investigation is completed or resign. The PSOJ, in a statement last night, said it had noted with concern the developments arising from the Integrity Commission's investigations and recommendations, while stressing that Jamaica's governance framework depends on transparency, accountability, and strong institutions, which we don't have, by the way, and which the private sector organization of Jamaica has helped to weaken. The organization said it has consistently advocated for the highest standards of governance transparency, and that is just what they say, nice sounding words, which we know that those are not true. No? And the Integrity Commission needs to be also investigated because it's too political and politically oriented. The Integrity Commission has recommended that Wheatley be charged with 4 offenses, including illicit enrichment, following an investigation that reportedly found assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings by more than 164 million Jamaican dollars. The Director of Corruption Prosecution has also recommended charges relating to knowingly making false statements in statutory declarations and failing to provide requested information. The matter has additionally raised tax compliance concerns linked to a former medical business and has been referred to the Tax Administration of Jamaica. While the PSOJ focused on institutional confidence and governance principles, the JUGC adopted a more direct stance, calling for the Prime Minister to remove or require Wheatley to step aside from Cabinet pending the outcome of proceedings. In a statement signed by Chairman Bishop Dr. Roy Notice and Advocacy Representative Bishop Alvin Bailey, the church group said the allegations raised serious concerns about accountability, transparency, and the standards expected of holders of public office, arguing that public office is a sacred trust. When has it become a sacred trust? But it should be, as they're suggesting here. Now, this is what they say, that is the church. From both a constitutional biblical perspective, those entrusted with authority are called to exercise that authority with integrity, transparency, and accountability. These are not merely legal obligations, they are moral responsibilities that sustain public confidence and strengthen democratic governance, the JUGC said. That's the Jamaica Organization of Churches, if I'm calling it correctly. Okay? Now, coming from the PSOJ, this is what they had to say, coming yesterday from Kingston, June 25. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? The private sector organization of Jamaica notes the concerns that have arisen following the Integrity Commission's investigations and recommendations regarding the minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for science, technology, and special projects, Dr. Andrew Wheatley. They have all of these very, wonderful sounding titles, and they're just there to enrich themselves and not the people. The organization has consistently advocated for the highest standards of governance. Same words being used: transparency, accountability, and integrity in both the public and private sectors. Is that true? Is that so? Is that so, PSOJ? These principles are fundamental to maintaining public trust, strengthening Jamaica's reputation, and supporting a stable environment for investment and sustained economic growth. Now, who is more corrupt, the government or the PSOJ or the church state sort of operation in Jamaica? Because whether we like it or not, I think we are a secular state. And I heard even the likes of Martin Henry, when he used to be alive, suggesting that, but we have never been a secular state. The fact that King Charles on paper is still the head of state, okay? England is not a secular democracy. That's what they have on paper. But the fact that we are a constitutional monarchy, okay, it suggests that the king, once there is a king that is head of state, the king is the divine ruler of the nation. In him or her is the divine, according to what they say. It's not true, it's not biblical, that God has given them that divine authority to rule. So we are not, we are a quasi theological state, all right? Yeah, that's what we are, a quasi theocracy, if you will. Okay? So we need to get some of the delusions out of our heads. Many things that we have been taught in schools are not really correct. Okay? And that's what we have to challenge, reigning ideologies and begin to think for ourselves. We need to begin to think for ourselves. Brainwashing is not going to help us to think. The deeper issue facing Jamaica is not simply whether Andrew Wheatley is guilty or innocent of any allegation. The deeper issue is not simply whether Andrew Holness is right or wrong. The deeper issue is whether Jamaica's political culture rewards accountability or projects power. If corruption exists, it must be challenged regardless of party color. If wrongdoing occurs, it must be exposed regardless of political tribe. And if we continue believing that one political party will magically save Jamaica while refusing to confront deeper cultural and institutional problems, then nothing changes, as nothing ever changes in Jamaica. As the scripture says, like people, like priest, the leaders we produce often reflect the society we create. So perhaps the question tonight or this afternoon is not simply, are these dark days for Andrew Holness? Perhaps the bigger question is, what do Jamaica's leaders reveal about Jamaica itself? Are these dark days for Jamaica, the country, the people of Jamaica? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is the problem Andrew Holness, Andrew Wheatley, and the GLP? Is it the PNP? Or is it Jamaica facing a deeper, is Jamaica, I should say, facing a deeper crisis of political culture and accountability? If you enjoyed this analysis, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao. Yeah.